And this is 11th grade honors lit. And I'm just going to review the last 8 to 10 pages for anybody that is at home and needs to know. We basically, this starts on page 125 and runs to 135. And it starts with question 14 on the last set of questions, the questions from page 111 to 149. And so I'm starting at question 14, and I'm just going to talk through these for a few minutes. Question 14 says, what seems to be Marlowe's opinion of Kurtz at the point where the natives are bringing Kurtz on the stretcher to the steamer? First of all, his view of Kurtz is interesting because he notices that Kurtz is sick on the stretcher. He knew he'd be sick. But it says he's emaciated and he's 7 feet long, which is an odd way to describe a human being because he's seeing him in a horizontal position. But also, again, makes him sound animal-like, reptile-like even. It points out that the name Kurtz, although he's possibly 7 feet tall, the word for Kurtz means, the name means in German, short. As far as he feels that he's also in danger. He feels Marlowe feels that he doesn't like being, he went to all this trouble to come and get Kurtz, but he feels kind of angry that he's in danger if things don't go well. He also describes his voice, which is the next question, question 15, is being deep and profound and powerful, even though he's emaciated and stretched out on the stretcher and cannot walk. It doesn't look like he could even raise himself up. But when he heard his voice, he realized he was extremely powerful voice. That's question 15. So question 16, what does the Russian mean when he says that Kurtz would go off on another ivory hunt, disappear for weeks, forget himself amongst these people, forget himself, This shows, question 16, shows the dark side of Kurtz. We've seen a lot of good things about Kurtz, remarkable man, a prodigy. He gets the job done better than all the others combined. But now we see kind of a darker view of him. He would go off, disappear for weeks, and forget himself. That's an interesting way to put it, that he's going off and it's like no restraints. He's just doing what he can in any way he can to get his job done. 17, explain the quote, the manager, Mr. Kurtz's method had ruined the district. Whatever those methods were, and we believe most of the time they were by force, he would steal the ivory from people, and he would kill people if necessary. He also employed other tribes against these tribes. So his methods have ruined the district. That means if anybody wants to go back in after Kurtz has left, there'd be no way to duplicate those methods because the people there would not allow anybody else to do that. And he goes on to say, Mr. Kurtz lacked restraint in the gratification of his various lusts. And we've talked about the fact that part of darkness is no restraint. And that's a dark place to be when you have no way to restrain yourself from going after what you want. A lot of people, that would be an ideal situation, but that's the point of the book, to show that that's really a very dark situation. Question number 18, which is on page 127 in the book, says, who is the magnificent native? Describe her. The native is Kurtz's intended, his other girlfriend or fiance. And describe her. She's described as magnificent, queen-like, almost described as a goddess. It mentions that her hair is done in the shape of a helmet, which reminds us of Athena. But at the same time, she's savage, superb, wild-eyed, and magnificent. So there's a paradox going on here. While being magnificent and queen-like, she's also savage and superb and wild. Okay, so that's the intended. 19, what does Kurtz mean when he tells the manager, I will carry out my ideas yet? So I should point out that a third thing you say about the woman, she was in great physical, personal rather, sorrow. She was experienced a tragic moment at the loss of Kurtz leaving. So she was magnificent, she was savage, she was sad. Question 21. Where does Marlowe find Kurtz, and what does he do with him? All right, so the last three questions are 19, 20, and 21 that we need to go over. 19, what does Kurtz mean? I will carry out my ideas, yet I will return. In other words, he may be physically emaciated, but he still haven't given up, and he still has this philosophy that he's doing some good out there, that his ideas, his plans are still going to be carried through. Question 20, why does Marlowe promise to protect Kurtz's reputation? We're not sure yet. All we can say is that it's all Kurtz has left is his reputation. And so somehow I think Marlowe dislikes Kurtz less than he dislikes everybody else. It's not that he admires Kurtz, although there are things about him I think he does admire. He's also called him a hollow man, and he's resented the position Kurtz has put him in terms of danger. The natives don't want him to go. He controls the natives, and at any moment he could tell them to attack the boat again, and they'd probably destroy it. That's his view of we don't really know why, but he has promised to protect the reputation of Kurtz. 21, where does Marlowe find Kurtz? So he brings Kurtz to the ship. Kurtz gets into an argument with the manager, and then that night, the very night that they found him and brought him aboard, Marlowe notices that Kurtz is missing. So he walks on deck, and he notices a fire on the land nearby on a hill. So he goes to look for Kurtz, and he finds Kurtz crawling just a few feet away from a witch doctor who is doing some sort of savage ritual, and the witch doctor does not see Kurtz yet because he's hidden by some of the bush, but he's very close. And so question 22, explain this passage. The wilderness drew Kurtz to itself by the awakening of forgotten and brutal instincts, by the memory of gratified and monstrous passions. This is in keeping with the idea that Kurtz, although he seems to be treated like a god or a king by these people and seems to be manipulating them, the fact is that everybody serves somebody, as the song goes, and he serves somebody, and it is the darkness itself. There's something even greater than Kurtz out here, and that's the darkness represented by that witch doctor in whatever force he was presenting the ritual to. 23. Marlowe says that alone in the wilderness, Kurtz looked within himself and went mad. What does this mean? Basically, that he saw that he was a part of the darkness, that his heart was dark, and he is obeying it. He is serving that darkness, which we've talked various times about it being evil. Maybe as a believer we would call it Satan, sin. All those things are possible. Don't know exactly how the author of the book, Conrad, thinks about it, but he looked in and he saw that darkness and he went mad, even though he was serving it. And finally, question 24, Marlowe also says, Kurtz, I saw the inconceivable mystery of a soul that knew no restraint, no faith, no fear. What does this mean? Again, what describes Marlowe is his lack of restraint, his serving this darkness. He has lost all principle, civilized principle, any religious principle, and he's basically serving the darkness. So that brought us to page 135, which we will pick up tomorrow. Hopefully this helps.